Hello again. I made another video about the warlock, and he's trying to come back in my life after he disappeared. But anywho, this video is about players. And not only are men players, women are players too. Let me tell you something. Before you invite anybody in your life, especially if you have children, and not only talking about the mothers, because mothers, they have kids, stepchildren, Let's talk about these fathers and that the women that they choose. These women can also be players. And they're not looking for love or commitment. They're looking for somebody to take care of them, for a place to stay. And once you move them in your house, you don't know what kind of demon attachment they have. You don't know if they have, I call everything a demon if it's bad. Abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse. That's a part of the devil. That's a demon. Then you have the succubus and incubus sex demons. And you don't know if, I've heard it on TV, heard it on the radio news, that some women, when they link up with a man, they move into that man's house if he got enough money to support her. And then when his son grows up, get about 16, 17 years old, she'll start having an affair behind this man's back with the son. And when y'all young women, y'all move these guys in your home, you haven't did no background check. You don't know if he's a child molester. Same thing. You don't know if the women are a child molester. And it's happening, and it's showing it more and more on the news. But there is arrestfacts.com. There is mugshots.com. Then you could go to whatever state you're in, Department of Corrections, and you can look it up. See if they have a background. Make sure these people are not abusers. Make sure they don't have assault and battery charge. Make sure they don't have a murder or attempted murder charge. Make sure they don't have drug possession charge. Because if they own drugs and they get out of prison or jail, you don't know what they sneaking into your house. I dated a guy a long time ago. This is before I met my ex, who gave me the STD. And my kids was running around playing. And I had asked the police. I went to the police station because we didn't have all that internet and cell phones. We had pagers and beepers back then, and we were still using the pay phone and the push button phone. So I asked the police to run his tag. I wrote his tag down, and he had a jail record from selling drugs, not using it. He wasn't locked up from using it. And the officer asked, well, why did you want to do a background check? I said, I have small children. And I wanted to make sure that he wasn't a molester or a pedophile. I didn't want him to hurt my children. So I didn't let him move in, but I did let him spend the night. And as he was coming in, he was bringing his change of clothes. He was bringing more clothes. And that's a narcissist. A narcissist will be in one relationship and then find that new female, and he'll start sneaking things out of the house and saying to the old relationship person, oh, I'm going to spend the night with my homeboy. Me and my homeboy going out of town, or we got to go work or something like that out of town. And he was bringing in shoes. He was bringing in shirts, underwear, stuff. He was hiding it in the back of my closet. And I told him he can hang his stuff up in the back of the closet, but I didn't think that he was going to be putting extra stuff in there. And I was young. I was like 21, 22. And my kids at the time were, my daughter had just turned 3. My son was almost 1 year old. And he had just learned how to walk. And they was running in the house playing. Well, my apartment playing. And my daughter ran in the closet. And my son ran in my room looking for her. And I heard a thump. Like that. And I said, what in the world is that? It hit the floor of the closet. I didn't have carpet in my closet. But I had put carpet down on the floor in the bedroom. So I looked, I said, it's a shirt on the floor. I said, okay. I said, he brought his clothes over early, so he gonna spend the night. And I said, he must be gonna come over after work and change. So I picked up the shirt. It was a silk shirt. Back then they used to wear polo and Nautica, Duckhead, and silk shirts. And with polo jeans, Levi jeans, whatever. Men used to dress nice and they didn't sag their pants. But anyway, I picked up the shirt and it was heavy. And I reached in the pocket of the shirt and it was a .22, a gun, a .22. And I kept moving my fingers across it. And I figured out how to open it up. It was a .22 revolver. That means it held 6 bullets. So when I opened it up, it had 4 bullets in there. So I put the revolver, I closed the gun up, and I figured out how to put the lock on it, because the lock wasn't even on it. And if that gun had hit hard enough, when it hit the floor, it would have went off, because it was a bullet in the chamber. It would have shot my daughter or shot me, because I was sitting on the bed. And the way it was facing outward toward the closet, towards the bed. And if I hadn't been sitting Indian style, it would have shot me in the foot or the leg, in the ankle area. Or it could have shot my daughter's leg off. Or it could have fell and hit her on her shoulder. Could have shot her in the head or in the shoulder. So that pissed me off real. I mean, I got so mad. My face was red. My heart was beating real fast. And all I had on my mind was kill. And I said, well, this not the words that I used back then. I said, if this Negro come by, I'ma bust his head open to the white meat. I'm using, back then I used choice words. I was cursing then. This is before I got saved and baptized. And I was smoking my weed then, and I was drinking my Mad Dog. And he finally came over from work. And by that time, well, before that time, I walked to my neighbors. I had the gun. I put it in a brown paper lunch bag because my daughter was in Head Start. And I used to pack her lunch for her field trips. So I put it in a brown paper bag. And I went to my neighbors. And I said, I need a big black trash bag. I said, matter of fact, give me 2. So I pulled a box out. I had a box with the kids' toys in there. He had them took his clothes and put it up under the kids' toys. And then I went all the way in the back of that closet. He has packed so many clothes and shoes. So I took like 3 pairs of shoes and I sold them. And I sold his boom box. I didn't even know this man had bought his boom box in there. So just be careful, because this man brought a weapon in my house and didn't tell me about it. And it could have killed me and my daughter. And then when my son, he stopped at the room door, the bullet could have ricocheted. It could have hit my daughter, hit me, and ricochet, because they said a bullet from a .22, it'll ricochet. It could have hit him. So then after that, I said, I'm not letting anybody else live with me. Well, not live with me. Spend the night with me. I'm going to make sure I go through all his stuff and everything. So then when I met the guy that gave me the STD, I wouldn't let him move in. I used to go spend the night at his house. And he was like, why I can't spend the night? I said, no, because I said my ex brought a gun in there. He talking about, what kind of Negroes you dealing with? I said, I didn't know anything about it. But to get back to the story, when he got there, I had locked the burglar bar, because I used to let my kids run in and out of my apartment, so because they was playing. And I had my window shade up so I could see them, keep an eye on them. So I told the kids to come on in. I locked the burglar bar. I put all his stuff in the trash bags, tied them up, and I put them outside. And I told my neighbor, she said, what you gonna do with the boombox? I said, give me $30. So she went and called somebody. They brought her the $30. I gave her the boombox. And she was like, well, what you gonna do with the shoes? I said, ask that dude with the $30 what size shoes he wear. Come to find out, this is uncanny. They wore the same size shoe, a size 10. And I told him, I said, he had a pair of polo shoes and some Nikes and some Stacey Adams. I said, just give me $50 for all 3 pair. This is before I got saved now. And when you make me mad, I ain't care. I sell everything that belonged to you. So he's talking about, what did I do? I said, you put a gun in my house, well, in my apartment, in my closet, and you hid it. And I said, my kids was playing, and that gun fell out from the closet off the hanger, and I heard a thud. And he told me, well, where the gun at? I said, I got it, and you not getting it back. And I slammed the door in his face. So the next day, he was sitting outside. He said, look, man, I need you to give me that gun. I said, I don't. The next day, I had called my mother that morning. It was the weekend. We went to the police station. I turned it in. And they said they was going to check. They got his name and everything. They was going to check. Make sure it wasn't no robberies or murders on the gun. And my mama was like, you better clean your fingerprints off that gun. So I took the gun out. I put latex gloves on. I washed the latex gloves and dried them while they was on my hand. And then I took the kids' baby wipes and I wiped the fingerprints off, and then I dried it with a paper towel. Then I stuck it in a new brown paper lunch bag, and I took it to the police station. And they got his information. They said they want to make sure no robberies, no murders was on this gun. So they didn't contact me. They didn't send a letter. And back then I didn't have a phone. All I had was a pager. And I gave them my neighbor's telephone number. And she said she never got a phone call from the police. And they told me at the police station, they said they really can't check the serial number because the numbers had been scratched off. So they said he bought the gun on the street. So this gun is illegal. So they confiscated it, if I'm saying that right. But please be careful. Not only with diseases, you got abuse, you got narcissists, you just got all kind of things that people don't think about everyday life. And as I put these videos out and I tell my truths, I want people to start praying and get closer to God. So God can get closer to you and take you out of sin. And then ask God to start revealing things to you in your sleep. Ask God to open your third eye and show you visions like Joseph. I have visions, dreams like Joseph did in the Bible. And when I tell about my dreams, they actually come true. There are premonitions that actually come true. I was just sitting here thinking and reminiscing. I've been through so much in life. I was molested at the daycare back in the 70s. From 1975, I was born in 74. And I was in cloth diapers. So from 1975 to 1979, I was 4 years old. I was molested, and somebody knew. But they didn't say anything. They didn't protect me. And years later, my mama told me, she said, you used to have bad diaper rash. She said, your auntie picked up her sons from the daycare, but she never would pick you up. being mean and hateful. But when my mama came and got me from the daycare and my cousins was there, she got all three of us. And she brought us home. And my mama said, well, why you don't pick my daughter up? That's your niece. We all live in the same household. And all she did was grunt. She was just mean. And you got to watch out for family members too, because family members are abusive, verbally and physical abuse. And I remember, not only that, you have to watch out for your siblings. Because I was telling a customer today about what they show on Murray and other talk shows, Jerry Springer. People be fighting and carrying on, fighting their brothers and sisters or their cousins, best friends. I actually saw it in real life. It was 1980. And my mom's oldest sister, the mean and hateful one, she worked at a job making ships. And the guy that my mom was dating, because her and my dad had broke up, she liked him. My auntie, she liked him. So he saw my mom walking home with groceries. He said, "I give you a ride home." He gave my mother a ride home. So when my mom got home, I was 5 years old. She started cooking dinner. Because we had left where we was living at and we moved back to my granny's. And my auntie got so mad that she got out this man's car. My mom got out this man's car. My mama didn't even know the man like that. She just knew he worked at her sister's job. So my mom put dinner on. She went and exercised. She was on her way to the kitchen to check on the food, which my auntie should have been cooking. She was just sitting there at the house all day long after she got off of work. This woman ran up. I'm sitting on the couch in the living room, and I could see the hallway to the kitchen. She ran up and jumped on my mama's back and started taking her head, bamming into the floor, and pulling my mama's hair out. Okay, by it being 1980, my auntie still was wearing the afro, and my mom had stopped wearing the afro, and she started doing the pressing comb. Because they couldn't afford the Afro Sheen and the Dark and Lovely relaxer that had just came out in 1980. So she jumped on my mama's back and talking about, "What you doing getting out his car?" And she said, "He gave me a ride home." She said, "Get off of me." And she took my mama's head and bammed it in the floor again. My mama had a knot on her head, her forehead. And her hair was pulled out. So I ran in the room and I got Granny. I said, "Granny," I said, "Auntie, she beating mama up." So Granny got out the bed because she worked 11 to 7 shift. She was trying to get her rest in the daytime. And she said, "You get off your sister. Y'all are sisters and I raised y'all in the same house. Y'all got the same mama, same daddy. And y'all acting like a bunch of niggas in the street." So she got off. My mama didn't even try to hit her back or anything. And then after that happened, it must have triggered. Sorry about that, y'all. It must have triggered my mother and start making her bipolar or schizo from getting her head hit into the floor. Because after that, my mother started being abusive to me. But getting back to the daycare, Mama got a job with the state, and we moved to our little apartment. But Mama couldn't afford the rent and the utilities and groceries. So we moved back in the granny house. But the molestation had stopped because I prayed. Mama did teach me at 3 years old to pray to God. And when I got to age 4, I prayed because the man said, well, he wasn't a grown man, he was a teenager. And the daycare lady had to go and run errands, pay the light bill or whatever she had to do. And she had her 2 grandkids to watch the kids. And he used to grab me and take me in the bathroom and molest me. And I told him when I was 4, I said, I don't want to go in there. And he said, if you don't do it, and if you tell, I'm going to kill your mama. And that scared me so bad to say that to a child. So I stayed close to my mother and kept watch over her. I tried to go and live my life, have a relationship, and then I got infected with the virus and he went off to prison. So I stayed more close to my mother. I was more worried about my mom because he had threatened her life than I was about my own life with the virus. But that day he threatened my mother's life. God made that daycare lady come home early. She used to leave us for an hour. And she opened up that bathroom door and he was on top of me. She beat the living crap out of him. She said, I asked y'all to watch these children, not be touching on them. She said, you done took away this girl's innocence. Now you done put a demon on her. A sex demon on her. And it's like, after she said that, it's like the men that approached me, I could just feel all the demonic attachments on them. And they have sex with different women. They not using protection. So they getting STDs, STIs, and sexually transmitted demons. It took a lot for me to do this video and talk about what I went through in life. And once my mother died, I looked him up on Facebook. And I told him, I said, you molested me from a little baby in cloth diapers till I was 4 years old. And you threatened to kill my mother. I said, my mother is dead now. I stayed by her side to protect her. I said, but now, there's nothing protecting you from me coming towards you to kill you. I said, I could press charges on you. But I didn't forget what you did to me. And God has not forgot. And you're going to see firsthand that God does not play about me. And I went to God in prayer. And I asked God to make him reap what he sows. And to have vengeance on him. Now that man's in the poorhouse. God put his foot on his neck and ripped his pockets. He doesn't have a penny now. This teenage boy that did this to me, I wasn't the only girl that he molested. But I am the only one who came back years later and stood up against him. And I told him that God is going to fight my battle against him. And I said, for me and all the other people that you molested, I said, you going to burn in hell for what you did. But I said, I'm not scared of you anymore. I was scared of you when I was a little girl. I'm a grown woman now. And then I blocked him. And when I confronted my child molester, it was like a heavy curse, a heavy burden was lifted off of me. And I praise God. That's why I say, stay close to God, and God will draw nearer and stay close to you. Please do a background check on people. Before you invite them to their home, you don't know what kind of demon attachments they have on them. What kind of diseases. Take them to the clinic and get checked out. If they won't go to the clinic with you, they hiding something. They know they got something. If they really love you, care about you, they'll go to the clinic with you and get checked out. I wish that somebody had talked to me about getting people checked out, because I was 24 when this was happened to me. And I sit and I think, if I could just go back to that day, because I asked him to put condoms on. And you know, in sex you do different positions. So when it came time to doggy style, he took that condom off. He infected me on purpose. And that's what I meant to tell you. They finally caught him, and he went to trial. And because he threatened my life, if I told anyone, he got charged with a RICO crime. He threatened to send Negroes to kill me if I reported him to the health department or the police. What he had did to me. And he looked at his medical records in prison. And his cousin came and told me the truth of what he did to me. His cousin already knew that he had the virus. And he's getting 30 years in prison now. I didn't mean for this to be a long video. I'll talk to you guys again in a few days. Good night.